How's everyone doing? My name is Amir Rezvani, and I'll be talking today about how to optimize your online presence. And just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I am the co-founder and vice president of performance at DealerOn, and I've been in the automotive space now for a little over 10 years. Was an internet director, e-commerce director, and general sales manager for some large dealerships and high-volume dealer groups, and joined DealerOn, or helped start DealerOn about 10 years ago. And basically what I'm going to discuss with you today are some tactics, techniques, and some tips that I've learned throughout the last 10 years, both working on the retail side and on the website development side through my years of experience, but most importantly through the thousands of websites that we have built, developed, launched, and optimized, and all of the data we've been able to aggregate over the last 10 years to be able to determine where traffic is coming from and how to best segment your audiences. And most importantly, what I'm going to really jump into today is how to optimize your website's conversion ratio so they can generate the largest volume of leads with a limited amount of expense and effort. So if we can move on to the next slide, I will talk to you a little bit more about how we're going to do that. So whenever I come into a new internet opportunity, when it is either launching a new department or starting one from scratch or taking over one that's already been in operation, what I do is try to determine what's the best thing to tackle first. A lot of people right now are focused on social media. A lot of people are focused on SEO, paid search. What is the most important aspect of the dealership's internet operations to be able to focus on first? And if you want to go to the next slide, we'll talk about that a little bit. Okay, so the most important question that people ask me is, how do I maximize my leads with the marketing budget that I already have and the internet staff that I've inherited? And that's a very difficult question because there's so many forms of advertising out there. There's so many opportunities for you to be able to sign up with new vendors. What can we do with the technology that you already have? And go to the next slide, and I'll talk to you about some of those things. All right, so we talked about social media, third-party leads, website, PPC, and SEO. My main focus today is to talk to you about your website and how can you leverage search engine optimization and paid search and some of these different channels of marketing out there to generate the largest volume of leads possible. So my philosophy is that before you can even think about signing up with any third-party lead companies or even launching a Facebook page, you need to master your own website. You need to be able to rank effectively on the search engines organically. You need to be able to have some budget available for paid search. And as we dig deeper, I'm going to show you specifics on what you can do to your website to increase lead volume, what you can do to your website to make sure you rank higher on the search engines organically, and we'll also go into whether paid search is a good utilization of your marketing budget, or should you spend that money buying third-party leads or marketing your inventory on classified sites like AutoTrader and Cars.com. And go to the next slide. Conversion. Conversion is probably the most important thing for getting the maximum bang for your buck on your website to focus on. So there's a lot of different opportunities you have on your current website, regardless who your provider is, regardless what technology you have, to maximize conversion. You can look at things like your homepage. Do you have a clear, concise call to action on your homepage that lets consumers know exactly where to click and what's the quickest way for them to access the information they're looking for? When people come to your website, they're looking for three things. The number one thing a consumer looks for when they come to your website, based upon over 1,000 websites that we're currently hosting and all the web analytics we have. Some people are shocked to think this, but the number one clicked link from a dealer's homepage is pre-owned inventory. So it's very important that you display your homepage in a way that people can have easy access to your pre-owned inventory. And a close second, followed by your pre-owned inventory, is your new car inventory, and then the specials. And I can't tell you how many of our dealers in today's day and age, in 2011, this information I'm sharing with you is commonly known that specials are a very, very highly visited area on a dealer's website, but I can't begin to tell you how many people still to this day do not have any new used car specials in that section. And it's the number one thing that leads to a high bounce rate is when consumers come to your website, they click on your specials button, and they see nothing there. So it's very, very important in order to maximize conversion to take people from browsers down to researchers, into shoppers, and eventually into appointments and sales, that we make sure that those three areas on your dealer website are clearly displayed, and there's a very easy way to be able to access them. All right, move to the next slide. I'll show you some examples of what I'm talking about. Okay, so here is a dealer homepage, which I think is optimized specifically, pretty well for maximum conversion via the homepage. And believe it or not, the homepage is a page that we devote a lot of time and a lot of attention to making sure our graphics are right, making sure our logo is prominently displayed, and all these different elements are perfect on the homepage. And then we sometimes leave our sub-pages and our inventory pages as an afterthought, where the homepage is just a gateway into those sub-pages and into those inventory pages. So one of the things I really like about the site in front of you right now that helps lead to maximum conversion is this area in the top left, where you see it's an inventory search widget in the most prominent place in the best real estate on a dealer's website. We all read in an F formation. So the top left is the natural place where the eye goes. And that's why people always put the name of their dealership and their logo in the top left. But right below your logo, you want to give consumers a very easy and direct way to funnel them into your inventory. So having an inventory search functionality on your homepage based on all the Google Analytics and all the web metrics we have is the number one utilized widget on the dealer's homepage. Okay? So very, very important. If you don't have a way to be able to funnel people directly to your inventory from your homepage, you find a way to work with your web provider to get that installed onto your website. The next big thing, again, is specials. So we want to be able to have specials that you're running on your new and pre-owned vehicle displayed on your dealer website, so they don't have to click through multiple different pages to be able to access your specials. So what this dealership has done here is he's taken his new and used car specials, he's got them in a inventory scrolling widget, a special scroller, and he's using motion on his homepage to draw your attention to the bottom right-hand corner of his page to get you to click through directly to a specials page. So everything else on the homepage needs to look good, it needs to be aesthetically pleasing, and it should represent the colors of your manufacturer, infuse the branding of your dealership. But in terms of functionality, make sure that you keep it simple, keep it clean, draw attention to your specials, and drive them to your inventory search. Next slide. Okay. The number one thing you can do right now to take your conversion ratio, right? The average dealer conversion ratio today is about 3.5%. 3.5% conversion ratio means for every 100 visitors to your website, you're going to generate 3.5 leads. And with the cost of search engine optimization, paid search, the cost of traffic to your website, we cannot afford as an industry to survive with 2 or 3% conversion ratios. And one of the big things that leads this very low conversion percentage on dealership websites can be solved as easy as shortening your lead forms. Okay? So what I've displayed here on the left for you is your typical dealer credit application. Okay? There is probably about 25 fields of information that we're asking consumers to fill out at one glance before we will allow them to submit their finance information to a dealership. Now, you might ask me, Amir, well, I have to get some of this required information in order to be able to run their credit. So without this information, I'm not going to be able to respond back to them and let them know whether they qualify for purchasing a vehicle or not. And I'm saying that's great, and you should capture all that information. But if you want to see the volume of credit applications on your website double or triple overnight, redesign your credit application form to first ask for the very basic information displayed here on the right that you need in order to be able to respond to that consumer. Get their name, first name, last name, email address, phone number, and then have them click submit. Once you capture those 5 crucial fields of information, a lead at that point is generated. Okay, so whether or not they remember their employment information or their bank information or their previous employer, that's okay, as long as you can capture those first 5 fields of information and then take them to the next step of the process and hope that they can remember or are willing to take the time to submit the rest of that information. A lead has been captured and you successfully converted that consumer. Very important factor of information that's been tested extensively is that for every field of information that you ask for beyond the first 5 that you require in order to initiate communication with that consumer will reduce your conversion by 10%. So another way of looking at it, on your credit application where you have 25 fields of information, for every 1 field that you subtract from that required field frame, you will increase your conversion by 10%. So there are third-party credit applications, there are third-party plugins, there's all sorts of things that you can replace on your existing dealer website to increase your conversion rate if your web provider does not give you the flexibility to add and remove fields. And if they do give that flexibility to do that, please, if you don't take anything else from this entire webinar, and you get back to your dealership, contact your provider, and find out at every section, every call to action where you're asking the consumer for their contact information, ask yourself this question: do I need this field of information, in order to be able to initiate communication with this customer, or can I remove it for the sake of receiving a 9.5% increase in conversion? Okay, let's move to the next slide, please. All right, so we talked about how to optimize your homepage for conversion. We talked about the importance of shortening your lead capture forms. Now let's talk about the single most important page on the dealer website, especially when it comes to conversion. This is a example vehicle details page. Okay, this is the page where once they've landed on your inventory search, they've selected a vehicle, they get to this page, and it's your opportunity to display the vehicle information, display the vehicle photo, and ask them for their contact information. And this page I've had the pleasure of being able to redesign probably 20 or 30 times over the last 5 or 6 years. And each time I've experimented with a different color scheme, a different layout. We've changed the how we label our buttons, the placement of the buttons. And what we've come to find is these 3 words that's circled over here that says request sale price in green. Those are the 3 words that were most effective in driving the majority of the interaction on this page that has led to leads. So we've gone ahead and gone a step further into a process that we call selling the conversion. So rather than have on your website something that says request e-price or get a quote or quick quote, let's sell them on the reason why they should request a sale price. This particular dealer has said, please note, we provide savings on our vehicles daily based on current inventory supply. Check to see if this vehicle qualifies for a further reduced sale price. Okay, you're not telling them that the vehicle is any less. You're not telling them that the vehicle, it doesn't cost any less. All you're saying is our inventory changes daily and our pricing changes regularly. Request a sale price. We'll get back to you and we'll give you the best possible purchase price on this vehicle. So it entices the consumer to want to know more. You've got your price online. You've listed that already. They know it's in your inventory. What reason do they have to give you their contact information? Well, now you've created a reason. You're telling them that the reason is that this car may be priced less than it is currently on this page. Give me your information. I'll get in touch with you and let you know. Okay? Mobile right now is growing tremendously every day, and more people want to have information available to them through their smartphone, and being able to display the ability to send to mobile is also very important. And secondary calls to action are these apply for financing, trade-in value, and other features you see listed here. The big mistake that dealers make on this page is what we call competing calls to action. So if you have a big green button that says request a sale price, and then you have a big red button that says evaluate your trade, or another purple button that says apply for financing, you're confusing the consumer. They don't know, do they click on this button or that button? So make sure and have one main call to action and then maybe one or two secondary calls to action on this page, and you will have a phenomenal conversion ratio and a very successful vehicle details page. You go to the next slide. All right. So going back to the idea of request a sale price, okay, or giving them a reason to give you their contact information. There is nothing more powerful, both from the standpoint of converting consumers from a visitor to a lead and from a lead to an appointment, than giving them incentives, coupons, and gift cards. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of background on why I know this to be a fact. This is not one of my many theories or philosophies. But long before we started DealerOn, we only had one product, and this was a pop under coupon. And we had this on over 700 dealer websites. And we offered things anywhere from $100 off the newer used vehicle up to $500 off, the gift cards, the gas cards, the you name it. When we were able to track the conversion ratio of an average dealer website, it was 2 to 3%. When we added some sort of intrusive offer that was incentive-driven to the dealer website, we immediately took that conversion ratio from 3% to 6% because we gave the consumer a reason. We gave them an incentive to supply you their contact information. Now, one thing that I said there that a lot of people probably, may not be comfortable with is I use the word intrusive. And the reason I use that word intrusive is because that's what a pop-up or pop-under or some sort of call to action that is not user-generated is considered. What it does is it interrupts your regular flow of how you search. And some people may be offended by that. Some people may even close out of your website and go to another site because of that. And that happens. And our web analytics show that 2 to 5% of the people that come to your website, if something floats across your screen or appears without them, requesting it, they'll close out of the website. So you know what? The other 3 to 5% in terms of conversion ratio that you pick up, to double your lead volume benefit that you retain from those consumers who are not offended at it, far outweighs the negative impact that you have on that very small percentage of people who end up leaving your website. So sometimes conversion is a balancing act. Are you willing to alienate some people in order to please a much larger percentage of the population? And that's something that you have to consider and test for yourself. But what we found is pop under certificates, coupons, gift cards, these sort of enticements to consumers to give up that very valuable phone number and email address are the number one way you can personally, without spending a large amount of money, impact your conversion ratio. You can do it tomorrow. Most web providers give you this for a very small add-on, or it's part of their platform, or you can get it from third-party company, and I'll show you the two which I think are most effective in the market that we've seen on our websites on the next slide. Okay, so if you haven't seen something like this before, the one to the left of me is offered through a company called HookLogic. This is a gift card promotion that incentivizes people through a $25 choice of Starbucks, Walmart, or a MasterCard. And this appears on the inventory page of a website. It launches unsolicitedly, and it requests your name, email, phone number, the type of vehicle you're interested in, no more than 5 fields of information there, or 6 fields of information. You have to come into the dealership before a certain date to redeem your certificate. So this is only valid to people who fill it out and come into the dealership and test drive a vehicle. Very effective way of spending $25. Closing ratio on something like this is very, very high. The client who displaying here shared with me prior to this webinar that he is closing at 22% on leads generated from this form. The other one to the left of you, to the right, I'm sorry, is more of your traditional pop under certificate. This is a $250 discount that's applied only towards the sale of the vehicle. So again, you know it's going to be a very high quality lead because that consumer who fills this out obviously has an intention of buying a car, or else he would see no value in this offer. So not only will you see a large spike in the volume of leads generated through offering a cash discount towards the purchase of a vehicle, but you know they're high-quality leads because those are people that must be interested in a car, or they wouldn't fill it out, whereas the one on the left, these are offered to people whether or not they purchase a vehicle. But I've done the math on both offers, both opportunities, and they are well within line to a average cost per sale of about $200 per car using any one of these two incentives. And next slide, please. All right. So I think we did a pretty good job talking about how can you use tools that are currently at your disposal or tools that you can implement for a very low fixed cost or monthly fee to help make probably a 50% lift in your conversion ratio on your website. And I think that's going to be fantastic for the majority of the people on this call. But if you have the traffic to support that sort of lift in lead volume, then those conversion tools alone are going to really help impact your sales, and they're going to help impact your sales immediately. But for most of us, we are constantly fighting the battle on how to drive more organic traffic from Google to our website. And I want to talk to you a little bit about SEO and being able to identify if your site ranks well on Google or not. This is a question that I get on a daily basis from dealerships is they constantly want to know how can I get more traffic from Google, what keywords should I be optimizing around, and I get different expectations from different dealers in different parts of the country. So what I wanted to touch on a little bit is how do you even know if you're doing well on Google? Okay, how do you find out what keywords you should be ranking for, and what are the keywords that consumers are searching in your area looking for your brand that you should be concerned about? Okay, if you go to and there's been a lot of changes recently with Google. If you haven't read or been paying attention to how Google's algorithm works and what sort of things it looks for, the way it's been over the last 10 years has fundamentally changed over the last 6 months, and it changed again 2 days ago. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Next slide. All right. So one of the things that we do on a regular basis for our customers, both before they're a customer and after they're a customer, is we developed what we call an SEO report card. And we've identified an algorithm internally, which is a compilation of about 400 keyword terms that are geographic-based, that are the most commonly searched when somebody is looking to buy or service a vehicle in your area. And we've developed a whole SEO process around being able to optimize your website around those specific words. So we created a dealer report card system, and we're throwing that up and making it available to everybody for free. We registered the domain name dealerrankchecker.com. And I just got the idea to do this when I was preparing for this webinar. So please give me about 48 hours to get the website thrown up. But basically what I'm doing is I want to offer anybody in the industry, client or not, free access to our algorithm so that you can determine what keywords you should be ranking for, what keywords you are ranking for, and be able to track your performance so that if you do anything to optimize your website, you can then come back to the site and rerun your rank checker and determine if the changes you made to your website had a positive or negative effect. And if you go to the next slide, I'll show you what I mean by that. So this is basically what we live and die by here at the company when trying to monitor the performance of our dealers. And this is the algorithm, it's the formula that we use. We use what's called a 5-city approach. Okay, so for this particular dealership, they are located in Bloomington, Minnesota. So we'll go and do population data report, and we'll check Google's search volume data, and we'll look at the dealer's cross-sell data, and we'll determine the 5 cities surrounding Bloomington that are responsible for driving the largest amount of searches to that dealership of people looking for either purchasing a new or used vehicle or servicing a vehicle. So we'll identify the 5 cities, and then we'll identify the keywords. And the way this works is, if you look here, it says Nissan, parentheses, city. Nissan city, Minneapolis. Nissan dealer city. So all you do here is replace the word in parentheses with the cities that I've listed here. And the number below each city is where this dealership ranks for that keyword. For example, Nissan Minneapolis, they're in the 5th position on page 1 of Google. Nissan St. Paul, they're not on page 1 of Google. Nissan Bloomington, page 6. Minnetonka, they're not visible. And Burnsville, they're the number 1 listing for that keyword search. So this is a great way to keep track of how you rank on page 1 of Google for the 5 most important cities surrounding your DMA. Okay? So this is what we use when we first bring on a customer. So we'll go wherever their current provider is, in this case it was dealer.com, and we will run this report for them so they know where they stand today. Then we begin to launch a new website and optimize and optimize and optimize. And every 90 days or so, we'll rerun a report like this. And most of the times you'll see a lot of these zeros turning into 5s and 6s and 3s and 2s and 1s. And every once in a while you'll see one where you were a 5 or a 6. You end up dropping down to a 7 or 8. You know, that's important information to know, and we need to find ways we can rectify that and constantly improve. If you go to the next slide, we'll talk about some ways on how we can improve. And if I'm going too fast, I apologize. I just have a short amount of time dedicated to a subject very complicated, and I want to just make sure that we cover as much as possible and at least get to the really important stuff. So now that we're tracking your rankings on page 1 of Google, it's really important to determine what impact that has to the amount of traffic that you'll get from Google to your website. Okay? So what I created in this diagram here is basically a screenshot of the Google search result. Okay? So in beige here, this is all your paid listings, your PPC ads. In blue, where it says position 1, if you're in the first position for a keyword search that may be Nissan dealer Bloomington, you're going to get 45% of all the clicks that come in for that keyword search. Okay, that's a significant amount of traffic. That's why people are constantly trying to rank number 1 for all their keyword terms. You drop from number 1 to the number 2 position, and you lose about 20% of all the traffic that comes in for that keyword search. So the 2 and 3 spot on page 1 of Google account for 25% of the traffic. The 4 through 10th slot on page 1 of Google accounts for 12.5% of the traffic. And if you're not on page 1, which in our report there indicated that you were 0, you'll get less than 5% of the clicks. And again, when we talked about paid search earlier, I think it's a very viable way, if done effectively, to drive traffic to your website, because 12.5% of all the searches conducted on Google will actually click on the paid search ads. I don't know about you, but up until recently, I never clicked on the right side of Google. I thought they were ads, I thought they were sponsored, and therefore they weren't going to be relevant to my search term. But apparently 12.5% of the population doesn't feel that way. And depending on what market you're in or what keywords you're searching, that can amount to a very large percentage of traffic. Next slide, please. All right. Now that we know the importance of SEO and we have an idea of how to track and monitor your SEO, what can you do yourself proactively with, let's say, a limited marketing budget to impact your rankings? And this little formula, this little graph that we put together here is basically a very effective SEO technique that you can do yourself. And it's just showing a combination of keywords plus the use of a blog plus link building are 3 ways of improving your SEO cost effectively. There are a number of other ways to do it, but if you focus on these 3, in my opinion, you will capitalize on the best results and as quickly as possible. And if you go to the next slide. All right, so what I was displaying here is an example of a dealership blog, okay? Now we have 2 types of blogs. The reason why I'm focusing on blogs is because Google loves blogs. Google looks at a blog as user-generated content and look at it as an informative and interactive way for a company or a consumer to express valuable content. This didn't come from a database. It's not duplicated content that came from a third-party website and been syndicated all over the internet. This is a dealership going out there and giving tips to consumers about how they can improve certain areas of their buying process or how they service their vehicles or whatever the case might be. But what this dealership is doing here is they're not blogging for the sake of informing their customers or being interactive. They have a very clear and concise goal of why they're writing this post and how they write this post. Okay? This is a Kia dealer in the suburbs of Philadelphia. He wants to rank higher for the keyword Kia, Pennsylvania. Okay? So in the title of his blog post, he has listed the keyword he's going after, Kia, Pennsylvania. In the text, in the context of the blog post, he's created another link here that says Kia, Pennsylvania, with a link from his blog to his homepage. This is a successful and effective way of creating an inbound link. Look at its categories. Kia of Westchester News, Springfield Kia Dealer, Springfield Kia Services. These are all of the most effective keywords that he's optimizing around, and he's leveraging his blog, leveraging human-generated content and inbound links to be able to generate more relevant traffic and increase the authority of his domain. And if you don't have a blog right now, if you're thinking about starting a blog, it's a very cost-effective and very strategic way to help increase your search engine rankings for specific keywords. And if you're going to use a blog, I highly recommend that you use a blog that's attached to your domain. What I mean by that is this dealership's blog address is kiaofwestchester.com/blog. So all the content, all the authority, everything built on this blog is going towards increasing the search engine relevancy of kiaofwestchester.com. Many of the blogs that dealers out there are starting today are subdomains. Those will do nothing for improving the authority of your existing domain. Those will just help you build one valuable inbound link. So if you can, build the blog on top of your domain. If you can't, a subdomain is still a good strategy, but won't be nearly as effective. And that's basically why I believe blogging is an extremely important part of your search engine optimization strategy. Next slide. Okay, and I've just listed here a couple of topics that you can blog about. Testimonials are a great thing to place on your blog. Advice on car care, discuss offline promotions. These are things, sales and events going on, car care clinics, and so on and so forth. Next topic, or next slide. All right, now that you've invested all this time, energy, and resources, you've gone and optimized your home page by putting an inventory search widget. You've attracted all this attention to your specialist from your home page. You've gone in and optimized your vehicle details page by putting a nice big green button that says request a sale price. You've toned down the rest of your call to action on your vehicle details page. You've implemented a top under certificate. You're giving away either a gift card or you're giving away $300 or $200 off the purchase of a new car on your website to help increase your conversion ratio. And you've identified which keywords you should be ranking for and you are ranking for and which ones you need to improve on. You started a blog. You've done all this time and effort, which is labor intensive. How do you know if any of this is having any impact on your online performance, if you've gone and successfully optimized your website? And looking at your analytics and having a strategy in place to be able to create goals, which is something that if you use Google Analytics, it's something that's very simple to do. And you look at your CRM reports. So you log into your CRM and you look at how many leads you had last month versus how many leads you got this month, and that will give you an idea if some of your efforts are working. And then if your website provider has their own in-house analytics, which most companies out there do, what I highly recommend is use your website provider's analytics product and then match it up with Google Analytics and make sure there's no discrepancies there. And if there is a discrepancy, always side with Google Analytics and look at that data for making any sort of important decisions on which providers to drop or which ones to sign up for. And that's really the importance of analytics. And if you want to go to the next slide, I'm going to open this up for questions. We've gone about 40 minutes, and I would love to know if you have any questions or any comments for me. I'd be happy to answer them for you now. And otherwise, my email address is there. Feel free and shoot me an email with your questions, or if you want to know a little bit more about.
Amir, we do have one question from Bruce Hartz. He's asking, how would I optimize a URL for a WordPress blog?
How would you optimize a URL? Okay, that's a good question. Based upon your, if I understand the question, is if you're thinking about registering a URL for a WordPress blog, then there's a great strategy to be able to determine what URL you should use for your blog. And what I always recommend is look at the main referring keywords to your website. And, for example, if you live in Philadelphia and the best keyword is Philadelphia Toyota dealers, try to use those keywords in your URL. And if you're talking about, and if that's your question, then that's my answer. But if you're wondering about how to optimize your WordPress blog so that you can generate more traffic, then what I would recommend that you do is focus on the keywords that are driving the most traffic to your website and generate content around those.
Okay. If there's any other questions out there, please use the Q&A chat bar to get those to us. And I have a question. How much do you want to be tweaking your Google AdWords? Do you want to be in there all the time, or do you want to just limit that?
That's a great question. And there are two different strategies for AdWords. Okay, so if your goal is to really optimize around conversion and you want to make sure that you are getting the highest number of leads for the money that you spend, and that's all you care about, then I recommend that you constantly go there and tweak not only your bids, but also the destination URL where you drive that traffic so that you make sure that you are getting the highest conversion percentage possible. But what a lot of people do with AdWords, which is a strategy that's often overlooked, is that they will spend money on keywords to drive traffic to your website for the purpose of engagement and exposing people to your inventory, and not necessarily for maximizing lead generation. So it's important when doing an AdWords campaign to determine what your goals are, what are your key performance indicators, and then go in and make tweaks to try to achieve those goals.
Okay, and we may have the opportunity to name Bruce Hart's blog here. He's putting up a couple names here. BobBellNissanBaltimore.com or perhaps BaltimoreNissanDealer.com. Do either of those ring a little better than the other?
I like, and I have my SEO strategist in the office, and I have the pleasure of having met Bob in the past, and he's from my local market, so I know this area very well. And Bob, I can tell you without a doubt that Baltimore NissanDealer.com, if you can get that domain, jump all over it, and you'll be well on your way of creating a very effective blog.
All right. There you go. If any other questions, sort of last chance here. And just again from Response Logics, I'd like to thank you guys for attending, and I'd like to thank Amir for taking the time out today to bring his knowledge to all of us. And if you have anything else you'd like to add, Amir?
No, I want to thank Response Logics for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about how to optimize your online presence. And if ever in the future you would like me or anyone from my team to speak on a future topic, just let us know. We're more than happy to do it for you guys. You have a phenomenal product.
Great, and we're glad to be involved with you as well. And with that, I will say goodbye. We have a few more webinars coming up. We're looking at one for QR codes, innovative uses for QR codes, and we'll have Russell Blackstone from Hewlett VW on September 14th, and he's going to talk about how he revamped the Hewlett VW internet setup. So again, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.